in a quiet valley between two sleeping hills, where the wind barely stirred the branches and stars, hung like ancient lanterns above. There was a village so small, it never had a clock tower. Time here moved with shadows and whispers, and with the flickering glow of candles. And in this village, at the edge of a mossy cobblestone path, lived an old man named Tomas, the candlemaker. His shop was a little cottage with windows, like sleepy eyes and a chimney that puffed the faintest breath of lavender-scented smoke. By day, he rarely opened his shutters. But when the rest of the village tucked into their beds and the moon climbed high into her silver throne, Tomas would light one solitary flame and begin his work. He was, as the children liked to say, the man who made light out of darkness. Tomas didn't speak much. He didn't need to. His candles spoke for him. Some were long and narrow like icicles. Others were squat and round like little moons. But all of them carried something extra, something secret. You see, in the 14th century, most candles were made from tallow, rendered animal fat smoky and sour. But not Tomas's. No, his candles were made of beeswax, smooth and golden, with a scent so soft it made you think of meadows and honey bread. Beeswax was rare back then, expensive. Only churches and kings could afford it. But somehow, Tomas had it. Plenty of it. The village never asked how. They simply trusted him. After all, his candles always lasted the longest, burned the brightest, and never once sputtered out during a storm. But what made his candles truly magical was not what they were made of. It was what he put inside them. At the strike of midnight, when the air outside was cold enough to hum and the owls had begun their hush-hoot lullabies, Tomas would dip his strings of wicks into his bubbling wax. Dip and twist and dip again, 7 times for each candle. No more, no less. And after the 7th dip, he would take a tiny carving tool, no larger than a sewing needle, and etch the faintest rune into the soft side of the candle's base. The markings were old, older than the village, older than the church bells, older even than the name Thomas. Some said they were symbols of warmth, others said they meant one safe passage through the dark. Tomas never told. As he carved, he whispered something under his breath, not in words, but in rhythms, like a song made only for wax and flame to hear. And when he was done, he'd gently place each finished candle onto a wooden tray lined with wool and lavender stems. Then ever so slowly, he would blow out his working flame and let the shop drift into darkness again. In the morning, when the milk pails clattered and the roosters began their proud crowing, villagers would find baskets waiting quietly at their doorsteps. Inside, 2 or 3 of Tomas's candles nestled like sleeping chicks in straw. He never asked for coin. Instead, people left gifts in return: a fresh loaf of rye, a carved spoon, a jar of rosehip jam, and every now and then a single honeycomb wrapped in cloth. One foggy evening, a girl named Elira, a curious child with wind-tangled braids and a heart full of quiet questions, couldn't sleep. She had noticed that her candle always made her dreams feel sweeter, softer. That night she tiptoed out, barefoot on the dewy grass, toward Thomas's cottage. Through a crack in the shutters she saw him, dipping, carving, whispering. The warm gold of the candlelight made the walls glow like amber. Her breath caught. She didn't knock, she didn't speak, she just watched. And as she did, she felt sleep reach for her like a gentle wave. She curled up beneath a berry bush and fell into the softest slumber of her life. Tomas found her at dawn. He said nothing, simply covered her with his cloak and left a tiny candle beside her, marked with a rune she'd never seen before. Later that day, she lit it in her room, and for a moment the walls seemed to sigh. Shadows danced like soft feathers. The room smelled of warm beeswax and thyme. And as she drifted to sleep, she dreamed of Tomas, younger, smiling, and surrounded by golden hives deep in a hidden grove of trees. In her dream, he was whispering to the bees, and they were listening.